In order to appreciate our gospel lesson, we need to look at the series of events which led up to it. At the beginning of chapter 6, Jesus returned to his hometown of Nazareth, where he began preaching in the synagogue. However, the hometown crowd remembered Jesus not as a miracle worker and master storyteller, but as Mary and Joseph's boy, the carpenter's kid. Because of this, Jesus was unsuccessful in his mission there, except for healing a few sick people. And Mark says that he was amazed at their unbelief. Then Jesus left Nazareth and began teaching in other villages. Meanwhile, he sent out his 12 disciples to do their ministry. And Mark says they cast out many demons and anointed with oils many who were sick and cured them. As the chapter continues, Jesus received the devastating news that his cousin John the Baptist was beheaded by King Herod. And this is where our gospel lesson comes in. The disciples returned from their ministry. They were both excited and exhausted. Yet whatever excitement they had was surely crushed when they heard about John's execution. It is at this point in the story that Jesus made an excellent suggestion. Come away to a deserted place, all by yourselves, and rest a while. Wow, what a great idea. A little getaway, a mountain retreat, was exactly what the disciples needed. We all need periods of rest. We all need time to get away from it all. Time to recharge our brains and recharge our spirits. And this is not only true of us, but it's also true of Jesus. After experiencing rejection in his hometown, after teaching and healing, after having received the news that John was murdered, Jesus knew it was time for a retreat. And he sensed his disciples needed it as well. And so they got in a boat and tried to find a spot away from the crowd where no one could find them. Unfortunately, word got out where they were headed, and when they reached their destination, they discovered not a deserted place, not a restful retreat, but a shoreline that was standing room only. As they docked their boat, the people swarmed around them like paparazzi stalking a celebrity. Now, we might think that Jesus would have been exasperated when he saw the crowd. We might think that he would have ordered his disciples to turn the boat around and head in another direction. But instead, Mark says he had compassion for them because they were like sheep without a shepherd. And he taught them and healed them and fed a crowd over 5,000 people. Have you ever had a week similar to this one, except for feeding the 5,000, of course? Have you ever had a week when the demands of work or school or life in general just simply felt overwhelming? A week when there were bills to pay, house cleaning and washing to be done, meals to be prepared, kids or grandkids to raise, dogs to walk, a sick friend to visit, bad news from a relative, one demand on top of another. And then in the midst of this frenzy of activities, you discover a free day on your calendar, so you circle it in red and you set it aside as a day for rest and relaxation. And you look forward to it and you pray for it. And when that day finally comes, you suddenly remember that you are in charge of the neighborhood block party, and 40 guests show up at your doorstep, waiting to be fed and entertained. Or you get that phone call that turns your world upside down, and your day of rest and relaxation is quickly put aside and replaced by more activity and more demands on your time and emotional energy. In moments like these, compassion is not the feeling that comes to mind. You want to scream, you want to rant and rave, you want to jump in your car and drive to an undisclosed location and hide for a while. Have you ever had a week like this? I'm sure you have. Compassion is never easy. There is always a cost to it. And what I'm trying to do this morning is put us in Jesus' shoes so we understand how hard it is sometimes to have compassion for those in need. We tend to read these words from our gospel lesson and think nothing of them. Jesus had compassion for them because they were like sheep without a shepherd, and he began to teach them many things. However, when we place ourselves in the situation of our gospel lesson, when we've had the kind of week that Jesus had, we begin to understand that his compassion for the crowd is a very remarkable thing indeed. It's true, Jesus was the Son of God with all the power that this entails, But he was also fully human, with all the feelings, weaknesses, and temptations we experience in life. And I cannot imagine that Jesus would not have been at least a little bit frazzled when he tried to take his disciples on a quiet retreat and found over 5,000 people waiting to be taught, healed, and fed. I find it hard to believe that Jesus would not have been tempted to turn the boat around and head for an undisclosed location. However, Jesus and his disciples go ashore. He sets aside his time of rest and relaxation and has compassion for those in need. Compassion is a very powerful gift to others. It's never easy, and it always comes at a cost. The American Heritage Dictionary defines compassion as a deep awareness of the suffering of another, coupled with the wish to relieve it. You see, compassion is more than feeling sorry for someone. It's something much deeper. It's something that enables us to push through our fatigue and burnout and set aside our time of rest and relaxation. And we do this because the needs of others are so great and deeply felt that we cannot do otherwise. Compassion enables us to do things we would not normally be able to do in order to help those who are in need. In New Testament Greek, there are two words that can be translated into English as compassion. The first is eleo, and this word is used by the sick and suffering who appeal to Jesus for relief from their pain. It is most commonly translated as have pity on me, but it also means have compassion on me. The second word for compassion is one of my favorite Greek words. It is splanchnizomai, and this word is always used when describing Jesus. It literally means to be moved in one's bowels, which indicates the depth of feeling that it takes to be compassionate. In modern English, we would say that we feel it in our gut, if that is helpful. This is the kind of compassion Jesus had for the crowd. He was not simply feeling sorry for him. He deeply felt the needs of the crowd and simply could not turn them away, in spite of his need for rest and relaxation. And this is the kind of compassion Jesus had for the gathering crowd. And it is a remarkable and powerful gift that should not be underestimated nor underappreciated. Compassion is a rare quality in this world, but it is one that I believe we are called to exhibit as followers of Jesus. Frederick Buechner once wrote that compassion is the sometimes fatal capacity for feeling what it is like to live in someone else's skin. It is the knowledge that there can never really be any peace and joy for me until there is peace and joy for you too. I believe that we as Christians are called to be people of compassion. In the midst of our stressed out, frazzled lives, we are called to do a difficult and life-changing thing. We, like Jesus, are called to set aside our own cares and worries for a while and enter into the pain and suffering of others. And this is a very difficult thing to do, but it is the work we are called to as followers of the one who had compassion on the crowd, because they were like sheep without a shepherd. Luke 6:36 tells us, "Be merciful, just as your Father is merciful." This text can also be translated, "Be compassionate, just as your Father is compassionate." And perhaps this is the lesson we learn today from our gospel reading. It's true we all need times of rest and relaxation. We need a quiet space away from the busyness and stress of life. However, our first priority is to be people of compassion, to be shepherds to the sheep, to guide those who are lost, to heal those who are suffering the ills of body, mind, and spirit. And this work is hard, and it often shows up on our shores at the worst possible moments of our lives. Trust me, I know. Y'all know what I'm dealing with these days. My cup overflows. However, compassion is the work we are called to do as followers of the one who has compassion on us and was willing to give his life for our sake. Therefore, go into the world this week as compassionate people. May we transform the world with God's love, healing, justice, and mercy. Amen.